Working the night shift is its own world. Most people are asleep, streets are quiet, buildings feel different, and the longer you stay awake, the more your brain expects something strange to happen. But sometimes night shift workers discover things that are way beyond strange. They stumble into scenes that make no sense, people who should not be there, and mysteries that keep them up years later. It began with a sound no one should ever hear in a morgue. In 2013, at the Beatrice Ramos Hospital in Brazil, a night shift worker was doing the routine overnight check in the morgue. Bodies arrive after hours all the time, usually prepared for examination the next morning. Everything was quiet until he heard something unusual. It sounded like a faint knocking. At first, he thought it was pipes or ventilation, and then he heard it again, closer. He followed the sound to a drawer that was supposed to contain the body of 54-year-old Valdelucio Goncalves. Earlier that day, doctors had declared him dead from respiratory failure. His death certificate was already signed. The worker opened the drawer and immediately jumped back because the sheet was moving. When he pulled it back, he found the man breathing, shallow and weak, but definitely alive. The worker sprinted upstairs and alerted the staff. They rushed the man back to a hospital bed and confirmed he had shallow vital signs. This became a national story, and not only did the man survive, he reportedly sat up and spoke to the workers later that morning. Brazilian officials launched an investigation and confirmed the event. The hospital called it a misdiagnosis, but the night shift morgue worker insisted he was only alive because he happened to hear the knocking at the exact right moment. If he had waited even minutes longer, the story could have ended very differently. She had been missing for days, and the only person who found her was a night shift worker stocking shelves. In 2004, in Stillwater, Oklahoma, a 28-year-old woman was reported missing by her family. Police searched the area, but she seemed to have vanished. Days passed and nobody had seen her. Meanwhile, Walmart night staff kept noticing food disappearing from shelves before they were stocked. There was also trash in strange areas. They assumed it was shoplifters sneaking in. One night, a night shift worker walked behind a tall pallet of merchandise and found a sleeping bag, a pillow, and stacks of empty food containers. He waited and watched from a distance, and 20 minutes later, the missing woman returned to her hiding spot. She had been living inside the store between the walls of merchandise for 2 days. She said it was warm, safe, and no one bothered her. The worker calmly alerted security. Police arrived and confirmed her identity. She was safe and unharmed, but this discovery was so strange that local news called it one of the most unusual missing person recoveries they had seen. He kept hearing footsteps in empty rooms until he discovered someone had been living inside the walls of the hotel. In 2017, at a hotel in Memphis, Tennessee, the night auditor had been dealing with a weird problem for weeks. Guests on the top floor kept calling the front desk complaining that someone was walking around above their rooms. The problem was that the top floor had no rooms above it. The roof was directly overhead. One night around 2 a.m, the night auditor decided to investigate himself. He went up to the top floor, stood in the hallway, and listened. Sure enough, he heard footsteps, slow and heavy. He followed the sound to a maintenance door at the far end of the hall. This door led to a crawl space that held wiring, air ducts, and old storage items. When he opened the door, the footsteps stopped. He climbed inside with a flashlight. The crawl space stretched the length of the hotel, and at first he saw nothing unusual. But then he spotted something that absolutely should not have been there. A small mattress, food wrappers, water bottles, and a jacket draped over a pipe. Someone had been living in the walls. He backed out immediately and called the police. Officers searched the space and eventually located a man hiding behind one of the structural beams. He had apparently accessed the crawl space through an exterior service panel on the roof and had been living there quietly for at least 2 weeks. Investigators confirmed that the reports of footsteps were real. Most people expect animals to break out of cages. They do not expect them to wander into the staff lunchroom. In 2015, at the Buffalo Zoo in New York, a night zookeeper was doing his regular rounds. It was quiet, cold, and totally normal until he heard something crash inside the staff cafeteria. He assumed it was raccoons, but when he opened the door, he froze. A 400-pound female gorilla named Koga was sitting at one of the tables holding a stack of napkins like she owned the place. The keepers slowly backed out and called emergency staff. The zoo confirmed the gorilla had managed to slip through a faulty barrier and wandered across the grounds into the cafeteria. She was calm, curious, and not aggressive. Specialists tranquilized her and safely returned her to her enclosure. This incident became a widely reported story, and the zoo publicly confirmed everything. The night shift worker later said he never opened a door casually again. He expected to find hydraulic fluid. Instead, he found a young man who had survived the impossible. In April 2014, at San Jose International Airport, a Hawaiian Airlines mechanic was performing a standard night inspection on a Boeing 767. When he checked the left wheel well, he spotted something that made no sense. A shoe, then a leg, then an entire person. The mechanic jumped back and shouted for help. Inside the wheel compartment was a boy who had survived a 5-hour flight at more than 30,000 feet. Temperatures in wheel wells drop far below freezing. Most people lose consciousness within minutes. Shockingly, doctors said the boy survived because his body went into a hibernation-like state. Security footage later confirmed he had climbed the airport fence and crawled inside the wheel well just before the flight took off. The FAA called it one of the rarest surviving stowaway incidents in history, and the night shift mechanic said he had to blink several times before accepting he was seeing an actual person and not a mannequin. He vanished from a nursing home. He was found miles away by a janitor who was just trying to clean the floors. In 2019, in Des Moines, Iowa, an 82-year-old man with dementia walked away from his care facility during the night. Staff discovered he was missing at dawn and immediately called the police. The search lasted all day. Later that night, inside a public library across town, a janitor was cleaning the building after closing. When he reached the basement bathroom, he found the door locked from the inside. He knocked. No response. He eventually forced it open and found the missing man sitting on the floor, confused but alert. Security cameras showed the man had wandered inside earlier in the evening and became locked in. The janitor called emergency services, and the man was reunited with his family. The story was covered by local Iowa media, who called it a miracle find. The worker said he only forced the door because it was his last task of the night. He thought he heard someone calling his name, but what he found was terrifying and real. In 2010, at a factory in Pittsburgh, a night shift machine operator named Jeremy was doing routine checks. The building was loud, but mostly empty. As he walked past one of the older machines, he heard what sounded like muffled yelling. He stopped the line and investigated. Inside one of the industrial rollers, he found a coworker who had become trapped while performing maintenance. The man was alive, but was losing consciousness. Jeremy hit the emergency stop, called for help, and with 2 other workers lifted part of the machine enough to pull him out. The victim survived with multiple injuries. OSHA investigated and confirmed it was a real workplace accident caused by a malfunctioning emergency lock. The only reason the trapped worker survived was because a night shift coworker listened closely enough to hear him calling for help over the noise of the factory floor. He was doing his rounds when he found bloody footprints leading to a locked room. In 2016, in St. Louis, a night security guard patrolling an office building noticed something strange: a trail of footprints on the tile floor. At first, he thought someone had spilled paint, but when he looked closer, it was clearly blood. The trail led to an office that was locked. He called police immediately. Officers arrived and forced the door open, and inside they found a man who had been attacked elsewhere and ran into the building to hide. He survived the attack, but could not reach a phone. Police confirmed the attacker was later arrested, and the story spread through Missouri news outlets. The security guard said he had almost walked past the footprints because they looked like streaks in bad lighting. He only checked because he had a feeling something wasn't right. At first he thought it was a dog, and then he realized it was something scientists rarely see alive. In 2021, in Queensland, Australia, a gas station worker was refilling windshield washer fluid outside when he noticed an animal crawling slowly across the sidewalk around 2 a.m. It was not a dog, it was not a cat, it was a massive and extremely rare giant Australian stick insect. Fully grown stick insects are well known to scientists, but but most people have never seen a living one that large. They can reach more than half a meter in length, and this one was close. The worker recorded a video which went viral. Australian wildlife experts confirmed the insect was real and likely came from nearby bushland. They said it was unusual for one to wander into a bright lit public area. The workers gently guided it away from the sidewalk and into the bushes. The discovery was shared by news outlets, and people thought the video was fake until scientists confirmed everything. He reached the last stop, turned off the lights, and thought the bus was empty. Then a voice spoke behind him. In 2015, in New York City, a night driver finishing his route pulled into the depot at around 2 a.m. He turned off the lights, locked the front doors, and walked toward the back to check for trash. That is when he heard someone whisper. He spun around and saw a boy sitting in the last row. He was pale, quiet, and wearing hospital clothing. The driver unlocked the doors and asked if he needed help. The man said he had walked away from a nearby psychiatric facility hours earlier and had boarded the bus because it was warm. The driver radioed dispatch. Police arrived, confirmed the boy was reported missing, and returned him safely. New York outlets covered the story because the boy had traveled miles across the city, completely unnoticed except by the final night shift driver. The driver later said the moment he heard the whisper in a dark, silent bus was one of the scariest experiences of his career. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I will see you again soon. Bye!